Hi everyone, this is Jeff again, and I'm using Screencast-O-Matic, and this is something you might want to use to do a screen capture, and I'll show you some of the benefits of it. But I'm using Screencast-O-Matic to answer a question. I've talked to a couple of you, and I've been at Point Loma long enough to know that this whole idea of faith integration into our classroom is can be complicated, can be confusing, but we don't want it to be. So many of you that we hired that I was on the phone with talking about Point Loma, one of the things I said is that we're an intentionally Christian university, and maybe we never even said anything to you about that since then. And then as you go to build your courses, you're running into this issue where if you build in an online or hybrid capacity, you're working with some of our instructional designers, and they're asking you to integrate faith into your classroom. And believe me, and trust me on this, every full-time faculty, every adjunct that I know has asked the questions you're asking in some capacity. In other words, nobody wakes up easily integrating their faith into their classroom, particularly if their subject matter is, let's say, statistics or research methods or advanced, biochemistry. So I wanted to spend 15 minutes or less, because that's all that Screencast-O-Matic gives me, to answer the question, why faith integration, and then to give you 3 examples. So obviously, we're a Christian university. Everything we do is informed by and is within the context of our faith. So our classes at Point Loma should be substantively different from a non-Christian university. Everybody agrees to that. But I wanted to point you to kind of the spirit of faith integration, in the sense that when I wrote the learning outcomes for the MS-Kin, this is learning outcome number 4. So after students complete the MS-Kin, they'll be able to serve various populations and integrate compassionate care in the Christian faith with their professional practice. So when I was thinking about how to tell you how to do this, in my mind at least, and this is just one person's opinion, in my mind, having students do this is integrating faith into your classroom. It doesn't mean that you have to do a cookbook approach, right, where you read a devotional every class. It could look like that. Everybody's different. I personally do not do that. So what could faith integration look like? You could do an introduction and share your personal story. I'm going to show you one example of that, or something like that. You could do a simple idea that I'm going to show you right here in example number 1, just a couple times during your class. You could do a discussion activity. You could do a series of questions. You could do case studies. I know a teacher who was formerly a pastor who's got these wonderful, he's in the MBA program, he's got these wonderful stories, but the stories tie into whatever lesson. Like if they're talking about business ethics, he's got this story that he gives them, and then students are supposed to make application. So you could do a video greeting. The very first thing students see in your class could be your face, and you're talking about, this is me, this is part of my story. And for those of you adjuncts who really wanted to teach at Point Loma, think about why, right? Obviously, we didn't want to just give them our knowledge. We did want to do that, but we also wanted to shape them, right? And encourage them and model what it looks like to be a professional to them, and hook them up with contacts and all of that. So sort of let your heart be known to the students. You could do things like a prayer request link or on Canvas. That's another thing I don't do, but some faculty do. Okay, so let me just get this out of the way real quick. Some of you who have taken TOP, you've run into this. So let me just put this on its own page. You run into a rubric as you develop your online and hybrid and blended courses. Those of you who have not taken TOP, you don't know what this is. But basically, those of you who have taken TOP, this is why you're asking me questions about how to integrate your faith, probably. You're going to be evaluated and you're going to get points on your course development under different sections. And the last section is faith integration. So Katie Jacobson's team is going to evaluate the extent to which your course does these 3 things. Okay, so high level. So this is a program director talking to you. This should not be the primary driver of integration of faith into your classroom. How many points you might get in this box, right? So the rubric says 3 and you only get a 1. Well, that shouldn't be, or you get 1.5 here. That shouldn't be your primary driver. Really, it should be, how do I influence students, and how do I share my faith with them? So I've highlighted some things that when I read this, first of all, I've never been sort of graded based on this rubric. Graded is a bad word, but you know what I'm saying, evaluated. But if I were, I would go much more on having students reflect on their beliefs. How do their beliefs inform their clinical practice as a therapist, maybe, right? Or as an exercise physiologist? And how can they apply an idea of the Christian faith to their future clinical practice? And so let me show you an example of that. So example number one, this is one of my classes this week. So I'm reading a really good book from the founder of World Vision. His name is Richard Stearns, and it's called The Hole in Our Gospel. And I'm falling asleep reading this, and not because it's boring, it's because that's what I do before I go to sleep. And I come across this Franciscan prayer, and I say, my goodness, I have to teach this to my kids, my personal kids. I have 3 kids. And then I think, I've got to share this with my students. And so this could be one example of a faith integration. I call it the embodied life. My personal approach is to live out my Christian faith just in a real practical way. I don't read devotionals to students. I don't have daily scriptures. I don't do that. What I do is when God inspires me with something, I share that with them. And so I try to model for them, what does a Christian life look like? And so this is my life, right? I read this. May God bless you with discomfort at easy answers, half-truths, and superficial relationships, so that you may live deep within your heart. May God bless you with anger at injustice, oppression, and exploitation of people, so that you may work for justice, freedom, and peace. May God bless you with tears to shed for those who suffer pain, rejection, hunger, and war, so that you may reach out your hand to comfort them and to turn their pain to joy. And may God bless you with enough foolishness to believe that you can make a difference in the world, so that you can do what others claim cannot be done, to bring justice and kindness to all our children and the poor. And so that inspires me to make this relevant to their life. So then the exercise for them that day is I say, do the underlying parts of this Franciscan prayer stir in any ideas in you for your future career? So as future therapists or physician assistants or exercise physiologists, is there a way in which I can inspire them to believe that they can make a difference in the world by serving people, right? By using their careers as an act of service to a God who loves them and loves the world and is redeeming the world to himself. That's just Jeff's version of faith integration. If for no other reason you've gotten them to think something other than, I'm going to learn the metabolic cart today, right? Or I'm going to learn statistics. I'll call Arnell out on this. He and I always joke, right? We don't think that Jesus has a specific p-value in mind. As I only test things at the 0.01 level, not 0.05, right? Or Jesus, could you solve the unending question: are closed kinetic chain exercises better than open kinetic chain? We know the answer to that, right? Closed. So anyway, I'm messing around a little bit, but that's not the spirit of faith integration, to try to embed Jesus into your content. It's more, how do we empower these students and influence them and transform them? Okay, here's a second idea, example number 2. This is kind of a big idea approach from Kinesiology 600. This is what Brandon and Brad and I are going through with students right now. And we're using Parker Palmer's book called Let Your Life Speak to teach students about vocation. And so that whole course, actually, one of the huge integrated assignments in that course is, if I could pull it up, I'm going to Canvas now. Okay, and what you're looking at is a capstone project within Canvas about this idea of vocation. And so I say, throughout this course, we have explored various ways to consider our professional lives within a larger context. From discovering our strengths to exploring best career fit to networking to developing a personal brand, we viewed these ideas in light of our career as a vocation and a calling. This is the big idea we're trying to give to students. That is, we reimagined our work as a mission of service to something beyond our own interests. And so we're inserting the idea, right, of Christ and service into this class. And so we have students down here reflect on your professional identity as a vocational life. This is their final project. We've done this in various ways. And so let me show you one of the ways we've done it. So I'll go into the modules. So in order to get them ready for this project, this is being slow. In order to get them ready for this project, we've in Module 5, Brandon set up this really good discussion board. And I just show this to you just as an idea, where the students reflect on their story of vocation. And so they've read parts of this Parker Palmer book. And I understand what you're thinking right now. You're not going to have them read an outside book, and that's fine. This is Knies 600. This is the course where we thought if one place in the MS Kin where we really influence them on the idea of vocation, it's going to be this 600 class. You don't have to do the same thing. But basically, Brandon inspired them with a quote, "Ask what makes you come alive, because what the world needs is people who have come alive." And he broke them into 3 groups by concentration, and he asked them a couple prompts, one of which was he asked them to reflect on a specific comment from the book. You could ask them to reflect on, the Franciscan poem that I read, if you want. And then he did this beautiful thing where, and I can't see it now, I guess. Well, I'll just explain it to you. Oh yeah, if I go into one of the discussion boards, this beautiful thing happened where students respond, and then he required students to comment on other students' works. So we've got pages and pages and pages. These are some of our students talking about their vocation and how they felt called to do certain things, and then other students coming after their comments saying, "Wow, this is great. Glad you found your calling," and just really helping each other out. So there's just pages of this. We've got cross-pollination, where athletic training students are working with exercise science students, and so this is what it could look like, right? I'm showing you 2 ends of the spectrum. My version was just a simple reading in class. This end of the spectrum is full on, like, one of the big ideas of the course is the idea of vocation. And so this is various ways you can make it work. If you want access to this, you guys, it's so rich. People just talking about, quoting other passages of that book they read and helping each other heal. It's just beautiful. So that's example number 2. Okay, the last example is sort of a begin with the end in mind. So begin with the end of the course in mind. And this is Nicole Cosby, as she teaches evidence-based practice. By the way, evidence-based practice happens right after the Foundations course, the 600 course. So Nicole nicely, in this video, what you're looking at is a video, one of the very first things that students do, and her class is 100% online. So she tries to influence them with the idea that as evidence-based practice clinicians, who seek the best current available evidence, are they also seekers of truth? Do these seekers of truth then incorporate evidence-based practice for the benefit of the patient in a way that's like Christ? And so she nicely ties all of this together. And at the very end of this video, I'm just going to play the last part. She asks them thought-provoking questions. So this could be a model that you pursue.
Or a type of assessment technique. And so I kind of leave you with these parting thoughts. Number 1, what does it look like in the vocation you are pursuing to integrate faith into your practice? Number 2, can you see any obstacles in trying to integrate faith into your practice? And then what does it mean to you to impact your patients through the use of evidence-based medicine? And then how can this be lived out in your practice if you think it's possible? Looking forward to going through this course with you guys and teaching you how to become evidence-based practitioners, because I truly do believe that it will improve your clinical practice.
So there are 3 examples, and obviously you saw kind of a recurring theme there, the idea of vocation and applying whatever idea we were talking about to their future practice. And that's intentional. That's what I'm after with this learning outcome, right? Of course, we don't all want to do the same strategies, because then students are just going to get, like robots. But what I would encourage you to do is not to be scared by this process, but to make it very authentic to your personality. If you try to embed something that you think that a course designer might want you to do, it's not going to come off as authentic. Students are going to read right into that. And so if you have more questions about this, I only have 15 seconds left. So if you have more questions about this, please ask me. I think you could ask Nicole Cosby, Brandon Sawyer. I think you could ask Brad Davis. All of them are doing great jobs. You could ask Arnel Aguinaldo, who has a lot of experience with doing this in an online capacity. Okay, thanks for watching.